we've learned several things. The prevailing sentiment is that the number one biggest problem that the dealer's facing right now is a customer experience problem.
We're a safe pair of hands to work with. Yeah. We look after our customers. We understand what it means to run a regulated business.
One thing we have to be mindful of is we're still a people business, and our first customers are our people.
I'm actually a passionate AI believer, but it needs to be implemented with actual intelligence.
Welcome back to the Drivetime podcast. We're on the road at AM Live here in Birmingham today. I'm joined now by Abdullah Baig, who is the founder of a company called PAM AI. We obviously hear a lot about AI and it's everywhere. There's lots of, banners with it on. But it'd be really good just to talk about what you're here doing and what you kind of noticed in the UK, because your accent is not British, I've noticed.
Yeah, it's not. So I'm from Washington, DC. PAM AI is the fastest growing voice AI platform in the automotive industry. The most dominant provider from a AI agentic customer experience platform in the US. We now have 450 dealerships on our platform across the US and Canada, expanding very rapidly. We raised a round a couple months ago. We'll probably raise another one in a couple months again. And we're mostly here just exploring the market and trying to see what the opportunities look like here, and not taking things in too much of an aggressive way, but there's certainly some things that do prevail across markets and geographies, and that is that auto retail and dealerships specifically are struggling with answering their phone calls. 30% of phone calls being completely unanswered. That is money down the drain. And when the auto retailer is competing with the independents, and the independents are just going, and 70% of the customers are servicing with the independents, there is a clear loss of opportunity that we want to be able to help capture for our dealer partners.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Abdullah, just thinking about, obviously you've come over from the States, you've got now, sounds like a decent penetration over there.
Yeah.
When did you start doing this? And just give me a little bit of background about you, how you ended up in automotive, doing AI agents. So what was your background before you got into this?
Absolutely. Yeah, great question. So my educational background is actually in economics, and I worked at a couple different startups and started my own companies. I eventually found my way at Amazon, working on the e-commerce services side. Then I worked at Lyft. So that was probably the closest experience that I had in the mobility industry. And then soon after, ChatGPT came out, and it just felt like a very pivotal moment, a paradigm shift that was happening live right under our feet. And my co-founder and I, Sami, who's not here unfortunately today, but he'll definitely make an appearance next year. We both decided, hey, let's start building off of this platform. And we were building chatbots for the most part, and that's what everyone was building at a point in time. And we were working with nonprofits and recreation facilities, and we were working for schools and pretty much anyone that could raise their hands and say, hey, we have a problem with people calling us and no one picks up the phone.
Yeah.
And
so you're building off the platform of OpenAI, working with OpenAI as a starting point.
Originally, yeah, exactly. That was the strategy. And then finally, one of our customers said, hey, phones are the bane of our existence. Give us a solution to that problem, please. And we were like, okay, sounds easy enough. Things are often not as easy as they seem, but we stuck with it. That was, we officially launched the company in August of 2023. We were looking at multiple different industries, building for multiple different industries. And then eventually I'm calling up a dealership to book a service appointment for my mom. And it takes me 15 minutes. And so we're like, maybe we're onto something here. So we drive and walk around and drive into dealerships and walk into dealerships. And we talk to a general manager and he's like, I think you might be onto something. Let's give it a shot. 2 weeks later, we were signed. Then we spent 2 weeks building inside the dealership, and then we were live. That was our first dealership. Turns out that dealer was the chairman of the Stellantis National Dealer Council of the US. And so that led to a really great attribution from the Stellantis market. And then that was in April 2024, our first dealership. Now 450 dealerships later, a year and a half later.
So big strongholds across the US and Canada. We work we have a major market for ourselves in Canada, which is great. And I think you're absolutely right. The amount of either unanswered phone calls, because if you're busy in the workshop, you can't pick up the phone, or customers want to phone you overnight when they're available. You can't pick up the phone because you're closed.
Yeah.
So I suppose it's having the ability to make sure that you're servicing inbounds. Do you do outbound as well?
Absolutely.
Or just inbound?
Absolutely. So we realized very early on that call volume accounts for 85%, 90% of 95% of call volume is service related.
Yeah.
But there's also a need for sales. But as the months went by and as we had more and more conversations, now we've talked to thousands of dealers and walked into and visited thousands of dealerships. We've learned several things. The prevailing sentiment is that the number one biggest problem that the dealer's facing right now is a customer experience problem. The second thing is there's a tool consolidation problem. They have 7 different dashboards and
at least.
Yeah, at least, right? And you have 5 different texting platforms that do outbound texts for 5 different things. When in reality, a lot of these platforms that exist out there should probably just be features of one larger platform. And so the conversations that we're having with the publics in the US are like, this is just not passable. We're spending $10,000 a month on 5, 6 different platforms. We want one vendor that can do it all. And so our roadmap has rapidly evolved into this pitch where it's, hey, we're going to do inbound, outbound, sales, service, phone, text, email, website chat, online service scheduler, and pretty much anything else you need, we'll fill in all the gaps. And in the US right now, there's call tracking solutions and call analytics. That's very downstream of what we do at PAM. And if Pam is functioning as the receptionist, she's collecting all the call records anyway. And in some cases, these dealerships are paying $3,000 a month for call tracking, call analytics, and call recording. So there's a lot of redundancy in the market too.
I think there's a lot of unnecessary complexity in the market where we see multiple systems, multiple logins, multiple systems of record. So you end up with, talk about quality of data. If you have multiple records, we now see in our own platform, actually, it will give you the choice of, we think we found this person, which one do you want to do?
Yeah.
And you can get rid of the other records or you consolidate that record into one customer record.
Exactly.
And it pulls everything into the one place.
Yeah.
So talk about PAM, because you said you called it PAM for a reason, which I thought was quite funny.
Yeah. So, when we originally were building the product, it was an AI receptionist. So we thought, we got to give it a good name. What do we call it? What do we call her? And in the beginning, we just had one female voice powering the technology. And we thought, hey, we all love The Office. Who's the most iconic receptionist of all time? It's Pam Beesly from The Office, of course. So we named it Pam. People joke, is it an acronym? Does it stand for something? And, we have an internal joke, maybe phone automated machine or something like that.
Yeah.
But no, it's just a proper noun. It's just a name. It's just Pam.
She's called Pam. We like her.
Yeah.
I think having a name that's that feels quite friendly is always quite good for a receptionist. You want to have somebody.
Yeah.
So apart from world domination, Abdullah, you obviously look at solving so many problems. And you mentioned that you want to come back here again next year. What's been your take on the show so far?
I think the show is fantastic. There's a lot of folks that are here that I've spoken to before, companies like Bumper, that we share the same investor in Autotech Ventures, which is one of the largest mobility funds. And so I've had great conversations with their founding team. There's a lot of other great AI companies here that, it always serves as a great benchmark for us. And, and there's a lot of learning opportunity for us if we're thinking about market expansion and internationalization.
Yeah.
There's obviously the vendors that we have to be able to tap into, like Keyloop and Pinewood, if we want to be able to serve a good chunk of the market here. So we're seeing a lot of complexity in the market, but there needs to be companies that have the conviction that they can navigate that complexity because the dealer is desperate for it.
Yeah, I think absolutely. Integrations into a system of record. Obviously, we're part of the Keyloop team, so we know how important our own partner ecosystem has been, and we've expanded. When we sort of jokingly thought that you'll see more Keyloop logos here than anything else because we have so many of the partner ecosystem here in one place, and it's so important to bring that partner ecosystem together. So you can go in amongst the applications that you have, but then your system of record is integrated into those point solutions.
And might I just add, Jacqui, I mean, Keyloop has done such a fantastic job. I was just in the Gulf countries 3 weeks ago, and every major automotive group that I've spoken to was saying, yep, we use Keyloop. In Canada, we're the fastest growing AI agent platform in Canada. And they also, Keyloop has a very strong presence through Certi as well. And so, the necessity is absolutely there. And so we're having these conversations right now.
I think what we don't do is build everything, and we can't possibly build everything. And I think one of the frustrations that we find is that customers that we're working with are trying to build software, and you think you don't need to build software. You just need to work with all of your tech team should be an extension of your team. So how do we help them sort of bring together all of those things? We don't build all of the AI solutions. We partner with people that do it really well because it helps us to go faster. So I think some of the stuff that we're bringing together now, we've seen the evolution of tech deployment just accelerate beyond measure in the last 12 months.
So I think, let me ask you a question. What do you think is like the biggest problem, and what do you think is the biggest opportunity in auto retail right now? What keeps you really excited about what you're seeing in the market?
For us, what we're seeing now is how much of your decisioning can be automated. There's so much. What we see is how do we kind of connect? For me personally, it's how do we unsilo this industry? Because you have fleet and retail, sales and service, after sales. So Absolutely. I think let's unsilo it and just put the customer at the center of everything you do. So whichever the touch point is for that customer, make sure that you're connecting up that data and you use automation around it. So I think that's the bit where we've kind of reorganized into a suite of tools that was like a scattergram of layered applications that now sit in 4 really strong domains. And that allows you to innovate in those domains, but also connect the domains together. So we have ownership, which is the after sales domain, and then supply and demand. And it simplifies the whole ecosystem. It kind of, you go round in a circle from, don't just spend all of your money selling me a vehicle, look after me in the after sales space while you have me, and then you can retain me in that brand. So I think that's where we start to see, how do you measure and drive efficiency and then demonstrate that within simplified KPIs? That's the thing I think for us is you've got to demonstrate value really clearly.
That's such a perfect point, because I don't know if this frustrates you as much as it does for me, but when someone gives the pitch of, we're going to give you access to data, I'm just like, what are you talking about? The dealership is drowning in the data lake, so to speak, right? The problem is not more insights. The problem is, how can I generate more outcomes?
Yes,
they don't want to be pouring through dashboards. They just want to see my top line is increasing, my bottom line is increasing, and the disparity between those two numbers is shrinking as well over time, right?
Yes, and my profit goes up. Thank you very much. Exactly. And I can start to automate things.
Exactly.
So no, I think honestly, Abdullah, you're what we've seen as well through private equity. There's more investment in AI than anything else right now. So you're right place, right time, and I wish you absolutely the very best with your launch. And hopefully, we'll see you next year here with a proper stand. We're kind of, I know you're doing discovery this year. Next year there could be deploy, which would be great to see.
Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure talking to you.
Take care. Bye.
I'm joined now by Marcus Gregory, who is the CEO of Payment Assist. Welcome to the show, Marcus.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Marcus, you're exhibiting here today. And also we had a very brief conversation last week when we were planning on like who was going to come and join me on the sofa this week. So just for those that aren't at the show and don't know what Payment Assist does, just explain a little bit about what it is you do, because it's in the fintech space, but it's an unusual space.
I'll give you a little bit of history about the company. We've been trading now for about 12, 13 years. We're a privately owned business that work predominantly in the after-sales departments of independent garages and fast fit tyre centres, etc. The business was funded by a bank called Conister, who were based on the Isle of Man, part of the Max Financial Group, which are a diverse financial group of companies. And the group took a stake in Payment Assist in 2 or 3 years ago. They took 51% stake, and then we bought the other 49% in September last year and took full ownership. So when we came into the business and we loved what the business did, we were having a look at the product range, etc., and the marketplaces that it was working in. And we're predominantly buy now, pay later and retail finance in the automotive space. But we love the franchise dealer and the OEM sector, which we didn't have a huge amount of customers in. Like I said, we were predominantly independents. So what we've been working on the last 12 months is coming into this side of the automotive business, launching our entry at the AM Live show, integrating with lots of great partners like Keyloop, which is planned, and some other ones that we're working with.
Nice.
So that's predominantly what we do. So we're a business that cares. We're a regulated organisation across the whole group. We have a bank that we work with on the Isle of Man. We also have a banking licence in the UK, Conister Bank. Payment Assist are also a regulated organisation. One of the topical areas of regulation at the moment is consumer duty, and that's something that we really want to get over to the partners that we work with and the customers that we help us, that we're a business that care.
So interestingly, the buy now, pay later, obviously, we see this a lot now. When you buy anything, even on my Monzo, it gives me the chance of spreading it out. I think consumers now are very used to, and also with cost of living markers, we know that historically people would probably be savers and they would, or you have a service plan, but if it's unbudgeted like tires or something big that you're not quite planning, buy now, pay later, the buy now, pay later is becoming just much more normalized, isn't it? I suppose we expect it on any big purchase.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's becoming more of a widespread method to buy now. And our ethos, and what we look at as a business, is we expect the unexpected. And that's where the business came from. When you look back in the roots and the tradition of the business, it was a customer going into a garage to get a quote for work, to have an MOT, expecting a certain amount of money, and then getting that dreaded call from the garage to say, it's failed its MOT. Actually, it's not a £60 bill. You need your brakes doing. You need some two new tires. It's £600, £700.
Yeah.
And the customer can't afford it. And obviously, it's an unexpected purchase. It's a vital piece of equipment. The vehicle is. It's vital because of the requirements of a family, to take kids to school, to do shopping, to get to work, etc.
Yeah.
And also to make sure that the vehicle is safe.
Yeah.
Because if that work is not carried out, then we have unsafe drivers on the road, which is not something that we
and uninsured as well. If your MOT is it's not
and uninsured, yes.
Yeah.
And what's interesting as well is that you look at buy now, pay later, and you think that it's a product that's mainly adopted by the younger generation because it's a new type of product that's coming into the market. But when we look at the demographic of our customers, the largest adopters are in the range of 30 to 40, and the second largest adopters of our product are 40 to 50.
Yeah.
And it's actually the younger generation are starting to catch up. So it is spread across a wide age range. And I think now companies that aren't offering it are going to be left behind.
Yeah. So Marcus, just to explain, what are the standards and terms that apply to consumers at Payment Assist?
Yeah, well, all of the buy now, pay later products are interest free. They have to be. So it's currently an unregulated product. To achieve that, it has to be interest free and fee free, and 12 months or less.
Right.
So there is no cost to the customer. So if the bill's £600, if you spread it on a 4-month buy now, pay later, it's £150 a month.
Yeah.
So the way that cost is covered is by a subsidy from the garage, from the dealership.
Yeah.
And that subsidy will range depending really on the term of the finance. 3 months.
It means that the work gets done. So the consumer then hasn't got to stress too much about it. If it's a big bill, don't worry. We cover the interest and you can spread the cost.
Correct.
Which is a no-brainer. It's a win-win, isn't it, really?
It should be a win-win, yes. Yeah. And it gets that work done. So look, it works for the consumer because they can get their work done. And it can help the dealership as well because they can sell that additional work that the consumer might not decide to do on the day.
Yeah.
For example, if you do go in and you've got 2 tires that need repairing immediately, but 2 tires have got another 1,000 miles left on them, a customer might choose just to get 2. But if you can spread the cost over 3 to 12 months, then they might take that decision. So, the dealership is basically upselling the work and the customer gets what they need.
Yeah, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So what's kind of going on in terms of the tech innovation in your space right now?
Sure. Well, obviously, we're a point-of-sale business, so we need not instant credit decisions, but very, very quick credit decisions. So everything is an automated process that we offer. So I think that it probably does link into the regulation as well. With the FCA going to start regulating buy now, pay later next year, that comes into their scope, which it offers more protection for consumers. But part of that regulation is very much around affordability. So where we're developing our products now, we're looking at things like open banking, where customers can give you access for a short period of time to their bank account so you can see what their income expenditure is and know if a customer can actually afford that product. And we're also linking into various other systems to check that a customer would qualify, that they're not overextending. It's hugely important. It's hugely important for me that we're a responsible lender. We don't want to be lending to people that can't afford it and put themselves potentially in a worse
situation.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah.
In terms of the regions that you cover then, are you UK only, UK Ireland, Europe? What's the kind of region that you...
So at the moment we're UK only, but we are applying for a license in Southern Ireland, which is probably a 12-month period to obtain that. Once we have that license, then that opens up the rest of Europe to us.
That's brilliant.
The slight nuances with the regulation in the different European countries, and particularly with consumer duty and things like that. But yeah, that is something that we plan to look at moving forward.
So you mentioned regulation a few times, actually, Marcus. Does the retailer who recommends your product have to be regulated or trained in a certain way to be able to provide that advice? Or is that something that, when you mention it's coming into scope of regulation, that they will need to be trained on next year?
Yeah. I think I mentioned regulation quite a bit because like I mentioned, we're part of a larger organization, which we have obviously a company that sits at the top. We have a bank on the Isle of Man who have a UK banking license. So we're regulated over on the Isle of Man by the Financial Services Authority and the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK and the PRA in the UK, which is part of the banking regulations. And I think the reason I make that message is that we're a safe pair of hands to work with. Yeah. We look after our customers. We understand what it means to run a regulated business. And that's very much around consumer protection, making sure the consumer gets the best possible outcomes at all time.
Yeah.
Now, the buy now, pay later products, which have historically not been regulated, are coming into scope of regulation next year. So a lot of businesses are going to have to become regulated to do that. But the onus lies on the lender in those products, not on the retailer. Right. If you think more wider of that, if you think of Klarna, for example, how many retailers, e-tailers, shops use Klarna now?
Yeah.
If you adopted the same level of consumer credit regulation as we do when you're financing a car vehicle purchase, for example, it would mean that every one of those retailers would have to apply for a consumer credit license, which would bring the FCA to its knees. So they realize they don't want to stop buy now, pay later because it's a vital part of credit for daily life. Yeah. But they've limited the scope of that to continue to make it accessible to more people.
Do the retailers advertise the fact you can buy now, pay later, or is it something that is a person-to-person conversation?
It depends, really. We have some that are most successful, and if I'm judging most successful by the penetration of buy now, pay later in the dealerships and garages, very much use it as a sales tool to drive business back into their workshops.
Yeah.
So some of the two of the largest companies that we have, which would be national companies that everybody would know, when you go onto their website, it doesn't even say to start off with what they do. It says you can spread the cost.
Right.
So it's telling customers, don't worry, our products and services are affordable for you. So,
yeah, that's brilliant. So are you going by the larger groups, or are you working with OEMs and like cascading out that way?
Jacqui, we're going to go through the front door, the back door, and through the side windows as well. So whichever way we can, we've built a great sales team over the last few months that are going to start dealing directly with with these dealerships, pushing them back into our integrations and into our partners. So we're going to be supporting our partners as well as our partners supporting us. Yeah. Like I said, so we're any way that we can get into this market, we're going to.
Brilliant. Well, it's really great to see you at AM Live. I know it's been a really busy show for everybody that's exhibiting here today, so it's fantastic. Hopefully you're having some great conversations with retailers.
We have had some great ones.
And I can't wait to see what happens next. Marcus, Gregory, thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thank you for having me, Jacqui. It's been a pleasure.
I'm joined now by Stuart Leatherbarrow, who is an industry legend, in my opinion. Stuart Leatherbarrow, who's now currently your Director of Strategy at Chorley Group.
Head of Strategy.
Head of Strategy at Chorley Group, yeah. Well, we worked together at Auto Trader, and I've seen you go from tech provider to retailer, and we've had loads of people on the podcast today from the exhibitor side, but I thought it's really great to get you on because you are now retailer side, and you can give us kind of what you really think of what's going on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. And legend's quite flattering. So thanks for that. You're a legend more than anyone.
Oh, stop it. So but what was great, when I was working at Auto Trader, people like you and the team, Stuart, you were building out really great tools to allow retailers to understand things like stock turn, how they should price. There was so much data, and you built that into the back end and then allowed reporting on the back of it to help retailers make better decisions. Yeah. So the job that you're doing now at Chorley Group, just talk about what you're doing, and also, I can't believe they tempted you away from Auto Trader, but
So I joined Chorley Group initially as head of used car strategy.
yeah,
And obviously there was a lot of work to do there in terms of putting in a framework, kind of a structure around what cars to buy, how to price them, the merchandising, response handling, the whole cycle of stock management. All with that, as you'll know, with the velocity in mind and stock turn and speed is everything and all that kind of thing. So I joined to do that, and obviously looks like I did an okay job. So they kept me, and we've got used cars into what I would call like more maintenance mode now. So
Right.
we're managing that now and we keep fine tuning and tweaking as we go. So my role's evolved from that into now really anything that has a client touch point. In terms of technology, some of the things we've done in the past 12 months, we've put together actually a contact center team. So every single new inquiry or every single booking request goes into a central point. And I know that's not new, but it's new for Chorley Group. So again, we try and make that, there's two KPIs in there. The number of calls get answered, but not just being good at answering the phone, making sure we answer it, but when we do answer it.
yeah,
And then, like I say, being easy to do business with. And then that flow from that point in after sales in particular, we've introduced technology from the CheckVic guys. So internally, we've branded that as Chorley Check-in. So it has a bit more of an understanding for both ourselves and our clients. So we invite customers to do the Chorley check-in. So prior to the visit, they get a link so they can do most of the check-in from home.
yeah,
And then when they arrive on site, we have kiosks whereby they just complete the check-in process. That check-in process, because they feel they're in control of it, we've seen unbelievable performance in terms of the client giving pre-authorization for, extra work or upsell on ancillary products. They're buying things rather than us selling them.
yeah.
And we've had fantastic feedback from customers. They just really enjoy it. Also, when they get to site, there's no queues. They're not having to wait around. They can just...
We haven't got time. You
No
want
one
to just
has time.
drop your car in or whatever.
Exactly.
And then either drop and leave or drop and sit and chill and use the Wi-Fi and have a coffee.
Yeah,
All those people.
and we've done novelty things with that as well, because the kiosk itself, it has like a lockbox underneath and the little drawer opens, and you a bit like if you're into Vinted and you go to these lockboxes, you put a code in, the drawer opens. Same principle. They put the keys in, nice and secure. One thing we are doing as well is we're trying to get all departments to embrace that technology as well. So a bit like if you go to a supermarket, an Asda or Tesco's or whatever, and they've got obviously loads of self-checkouts now, but pretty much in my experience, there's always one or two members of staff floating around just in case you need that bit of support. We have that same principle with the check-ins. Now, you would expect with that, it's going to be the service advisor. Well, what we've introduced there is we also bring the sales team in as well. So they're having more conversations now with the after-sales customers, not from a, like, I'm here to sell you something, but more from a, how can I help you? Do you need some help with that? And then, especially if they know the customer as well, it just makes it feel a bit more, a bit more enjoyable, which, like I say, is the hardest part of the job.
Speaking of embracing technology, you are obviously having worked, in the Auto Trader space and now you're kind of making decisions for a retailer. What's the tech that you are embracing now? And what do you think, having walked around the event today, that you're kind of thinking, oh yeah, we need to be ready for this. I can see this is going to be a big player in our space.
I think the big one's AI, isn't it? And everyone trying to figure out where that fits. I mean, we really are yet to adopt AI into Chorley Group as such.
Right.
Of course, we've been using AI for years in different guises, but
called machine learning.
Yeah, of course we've had
pricing.
that. Yeah, we've had that. But in the way it's being presented today, we've had lots of meetings and presentations, and we've considered lots of different systems. I think for us, we're more interested in having our own system that we can feed information into ourselves. And then, because one thing we have to be mindful of is we're still a people business, and our first customers are our people.
Yes.
We've got to invest in our people, and we've got to respect and appreciate somebody doing a job for us. The more tasks and systems they have to think about and engage with, that becomes, labor intensive, and it's unfair. So if we can have more, or less systems, one view, one way of looking or operating things, that's better for everybody.
Yeah.
So it's more when we're talking to people, can you work with us on that basis?
Yeah.
Can we use the APIs? Can we feed information in? And we're building out our own kind of internal system that, has proved already this year to be really, really beneficial. Like, I'll give you an example. One of the big challenges in most automotive retailers is used vehicle prep. Okay. And what's really challenging with it is, for many retailers, it's a blind spot. Unless they go and, get on their feet and go and do a physical walk and go and investigate, very few dealers, to my knowledge, know exactly where cars are up to at any one time. So in our own system, by embracing with some of our suppliers, any one of our managers today in all departments can see exactly where a vehicle's up to in its prep status. And it's that, if you don't measure it, you can't treasure it.
No.
And making it easy for them to see in any one time.
That needs to go on a t-shirt, by the way. If you can't measure it, you can't treasure it.
It's true. It's true. And what we've done is, and it was important to us, because I had this obsession that I wanted to give our customers a used car value proposition that I know most other dealers don't or might not be able to, which is, it's really simple. 80% of our used cars on any given day, you can buy and drive away the same day. So that's better than Amazon Prime. It's not tomorrow. You can actually inquire this morning, and you can have it on your drive tonight. In order to do that, everything else has to be right behind the scenes.
Yes.
So that was the mission. It got the whole business galvanized into, because you've got to get admin and after sales and sales and accounts, and everybody's got to play a part. And we've got there, we've done it. But a big part of it is that reporting and the system and understanding what's where. Because like I say, if you can't measure it.
Yeah, you don't know whether it's working or not, how good it is.
And also, we have periods where it starts to slip, because you can see it slipping, you can refocus and you can drive that. So, these are the things where when we walk around today, I was saying to my colleague who I'm with today, Sue, when you walk around, I feel almost like, because I've had that 10 years in Auto Trader, probably one of Automotive's leading tech businesses, I feel I benefit from that experience, in that I have a bit more of an understanding maybe than some. For those that don't, when they come in, how much confusing must it be? Like, what should I look at? What should I take? Because there's that risk of, you can take too much or the wrong thing. And
yes, I think the other thing as well, you've got the benefit of knowing, having worked at Auto Trader, what, by the time a consumer phones up to test drive the thing, they've done all of that toing and froing on the website, and they've valued everything else, and they've considered other things, and they've had a conversation with their partner. They've done all of that already. So by the time they phone up, it's I think this is the thing that we still need to reinforce, is that if the customer wants to come and test drive it, they've probably in their head already, that's the one they want. And short of it being a complete shed when they turn up, which I have actually seen, I think I was with the retailer, it was advertised on Facebook, and it was something for my son. So we weren't spending a lot of money. But the time we went to drive it, it was it was not what was pictured.
You got catfished.
It was terrible. It was. We got a car catfish. It was terrible. We were like, no, but it was damaged. That was the worst thing. And they were like, no, it isn't. We're like, I can see a massive crack.
See it, No.
So
I know. This was another driving factor, was, if you look at our stock profile, from a consumer's point of view, very rarely do we have anything unique. We get the odd niche vehicle, but most of our vehicles you could find and buy from most places. So we have to have something different.
Of course.
And we also need to not be naive to think that when they do get to the point of ringing us, they're only ringing us. They're not.
They're ringing other people.
They're trying a few others as well, because they can.
Absolutely.
So again, how do we stand out in that point in the journey? So as I mentioned before, being easy, having something different, you can have it tonight. That is definitely working for us in terms of setting us apart a bit. And I know these things sound simple, but they're so challenging to actually achieve, which makes me want to do it more, because I know my competitors won't.
Stuart, thinking about sort of moving ahead, then you've got some great stuff lined up. You're going to be picking out what the AI tools are that you're going to be weaving into your business. But anything else that we can expect from Chorley Group in the next sort of 12 months?
I think we chatted before we came on. We're trying to blur the lines all the time between, our industry has got this legacy of silo, departments working separately and sometimes against each other. That's not reflective of Chorley Group at all. It's not got that kind of culture.
It's an industry-wide problem.
It's an industry problem, but we're trying to, continue focusing on we try and work everything from the customer backwards. Like, what does that look and feel like? If you walk into a dealership and the person who sold you a car a year ago completely ignores you, how does that make you feel? It's like, hang on, I spent 30, 40, 50 grand with you, and like, you're literally not giving me any eye contact because I'm not here for you and I'm here for, like, that's shocking, isn't it? So the more and more we can, make that go away,
the better.
And the better, yeah. And technology helps with that. That's where it helps. I think businesses have to make a decision.
So things that, can you trigger then, if you know that I'm coming in for a service and you sold me the car, can it trigger to say, did you know that Jacqui's coming in?
Well, that's
today?
what we do. That's what we do. So because we get these check-in invitation 48 hours before, we now got the information, because we have people booked in, obviously, but without them checking in and everything, some people don't show up and all. So it helps with all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we can plan and prepare for those visits, and present the sales department with what those opportunities might be as well. Because let's face it, who's not in market for a new car if they can afford it? So we try that. I think for businesses today, with all the AI hype, is you have to decide as a business, what do you want to be? Like, do you want to go all in and go fully AI and it all be about that? Do you want a hybrid where it's some of that and people, or do you want to completely ignore it and just stay as you are? I think for us, we are definitely in the hybrid camp.
Yeah.
We don't want to ignore it. We can see benefits.
Yeah.
But equally at this point, we still value the fact we're a people business and our people, do a good job and people buy from people and all those things.
Always.
So, but we're not going to ignore the fact that there are opportunities here for us. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Stuart, honestly, it's been great to catch up with you. It's been too long. I do stalk you on LinkedIn regularly, see what you're up to. So it's great. Honestly, it's great to see that you're retailer side, and I'm really grateful for your opinion and your feedback today on the podcast. It's been really great to have you on.
No, thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
I'm joined now by Andy Whitehair, my good friend from Autofinity. Andy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Jacqui. Great to see you.
So we've known each other a long time. You do a huge amount of work in the stock space. So just for anybody that's not at the show today, what are you talking about here today? What are you bringing to the market?
So Autofinity has been around 10 years now, so that's a hell of a long time in this industry. Thank you very much. We specialise in inventory management solutions for vehicles, new and used. And at the show today, we have announced a couple of new big upgrades that we're very proud of. One is a new insights dashboard.
Excellent.
That tries to bring detailed information up a level to make it easy to consume, so you can immediately see days in stock issues, publishing issues in the dashboard, and then click straight through to the vehicles, etc. And the other thing is a partnership with Picasso that allows us to increase the breadth of the data that retailers can see to compare prices, etc. So all go.
Excellent.
Exciting times.
So when you're in the kind of inventory space, you're powering like new and used car stock locators for OEMs and retailers.
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and you mentioned that you're kind of more breadth. What's the additional data points that you're surfacing?
The product's called VI Hub, and the intent is to try and make it a hub. So a single place that you need to go to, not to try and remove the need for other systems or data, but to bring it into one place. So you don't need to go into Auto Trader separately. You don't need to go into the DMS. You can come into one place and it collects the information and integrates with those other systems. So the data extending part comes from bringing other data sources. So Picasso provides information on vehicle history, pricing, desirability. So how many views is those cars getting, etc., which helps retailers to be able to compare that against other data points. Mm-hmm. And then, as I say, the dashboard and the insights is all about just trying to present it, I suppose, in a more consumable way. So we've always had that information in the system, but it's quite granular. And now by bringing it up and putting a nice pie graph on, it really smacks you in the face that you've got cars that are old, you need to do something about them.
And we're hearing a lot, obviously, we've heard a lot about AI.
I knew you were going to use that.
Tell me, go on, what's your take on it? Because a year ago we weren't talking about it, now it's all we're talking about.
It is, yeah. And in fact, there are some companies out there that are stuck .ai on the end just to make a point.
Doesn't make it AI, just because you've called it AI does not make it AI.
It doesn't, no. So like all good businesses, we're looking at how AI can both help us as a business to be more efficient. So we're using it in our dealer service team to make it. So a lot of questions that we get asked inbound, we can answer automatically. So that's operationally, we can be more efficient, but also building it into some of our systems to be able to deliver more intelligent answers back to our dealer customers and our OEM customers. But it doesn't replace. I definitely see I'm actually a passionate AI believer, but it needs to be implemented with actual intelligence, not just artificial intelligence.
Yeah, we hear a lot about hallucinations. We hear a lot about hallucinations. When we talk about hallucinations, that's where the AI starts to make it up. So what you need to have is robust data in your engine to be able to make sure it's pulling in the right data for you. So what are you hearing from customers then? Because obviously you're here talking to customers today. What do you think is getting in the way of their kind of tech adoption, or where are they getting stuck? Because one thing we want to try and do on the podcast is make sure we educate. Are there areas of knowledge that you think we could be doing more to help them? Or, what are you hearing?
The challenges that a particularly larger company has, the bigger dealer groups that we work with, is process implementation. So we can build a system that includes the process within the system, but it doesn't train the staff and get them believing in the process and following a standardized process. In fact, we got asked the question today, can we help with that? And that to me comes down to one, focusing on building an internal process for your company, and then training. And of course, people not only leave, but also move jobs. And therefore you need to keep doing it. And that's an area that we've got more involved in, is trying to not just sell technology, but also help assist with consultancy and training. And you've got to make it, I keep referring to my age, which is a bad thing, isn't it? But, adopting any technology is hard work. Yeah. Nobody wants to change. And therefore people have got to be sold into, why should I want to use this system? How is it going to help me? How's it going to make my day? And once they've been sold into it, they won't want to let it go again. And therefore I would encourage dealer groups to put as much effort in transformation, training, process delivery as the computer systems.
I think we always talk about the kind of the magic triangle of people, processes and tech. Yeah. And actually we've seen so much money thrown at technology and not nearly enough thrown at processes and people. Because if you throw tech at something, great. If somebody uses it, even better if you measure it. And I think if you're not doing those things, and you mentioned quite rightly, there's a big churn of people in automotive retailers, and also retailers buy other retailers. So you're going from those systems to a whole different set of systems, and they had different rules or different processes. So there's a constant change and a churn that makes it very difficult to embed what's best practice, what does good look like. So in your space then, what's kind of coming in terms of stock inventory? I think it's so important. We have this at Keyloop. Obviously, we see inventory being powered all over the place. And how do we then make sure that you've got a single view of that inventory? So when you reserve it online, anywhere, it's reserved online everywhere. I think that's the bit. So how close are we to getting that kind of magic? So the inventory is the same everywhere.
Technology-wise, we're already there.
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable that we can provide customers with a single view, which is relatively real time. It's very dangerous to say real time, but it's pretty much as real as it's going to get. It's particularly if people can work with APIs instead of FTP transfers, as the industry likes to use. Excel. Please don't go Excel spreadsheets. As I say, what's holding us back is, in fact, one of the services that we started to offer, I'm going to name drop now, is we did a piece of work with Jason Cranswick a few years ago of doing an application landscape modeling.
Yeah.
Because, as you said, particularly if you've done acquisitions and retail groups find themselves with so many systems that are being used in different ways in different parts of the organization, and they lose track of what they've got.
Yeah.
And therefore, by modeling it out and creating a diagram of it and showing the flows through, one, they can identify the duplication, but they can also identify why is it not working. So everybody, we all want to blame the system. I blame the system. Bloody computer won't work. Word doesn't do what I want.
Computer
PowerPoint.
said no.
That's right. But 90% of the time, it's not the system. It's the process. It's the lack of understanding, and people not consistent across the organisation. That's why we got sort of dragged into providing a hands-on consultancy mapping service to try and help people understand. You do realise you're paying 4 different licenses for pretty much the same
thing.
stuff.
And I think that's why we need with the retailers actually we've said this before, look under the bonnet of the systems that you have and stop buying point solutions. Just use the tech you've got in the way it's been designed. Yeah. So it all joins up, and you're not then having to also give your staff millions of systems to log into and out of and key into when you've got something that does it all or does a majority of it already. So just make sure it works.
And that's, as I mentioned about the hub, we called our product VI Hub because we wanted it to be a hub and we don't want to try and replace other people's systems. We're not trying to be a DMS, for instance. We're not trying to be Autotrader. We're not trying to be a provider of pricing data, etc. What we want to do is to bring it all into one place. So you go into one system, you can see it all, and you can make changes, and then it updates the others, so that it makes your day easier. Yeah. And interestingly, you mentioned I've worked for multitude of companies, including eBay and Autotrader, and stood on stage and spouted that dealers need to invest more in technology. What I've realized in the last 5 years is that actually they've invested a huge amount in technology. Yeah. They're not always getting the value out of that technology because they're not understanding what they've got, what they don't need, how to connect systems up and make them talk to each other. That's really, what we're trying to provide by integrations
and also look at like cost saving, really massive. Don't spend licenses when you don't need to spend licenses. Just look at what your software does and also the job you need to do. I think training is a really big thing, particularly now around compliance, security, making sure that your skills are sharp. If you're using AI tools or whatever, how do you make sure that we are digitally training our people in the best way that we can? And you mentioned a few times you've been in the industry a long time, which is great because it gives us industry experience. What we need is tech experience. And how do we bring that in? And how do we make sure that we upskill the people that are already here with the right technology? So,
and I think AI is a dangerous thing. When I started in technology, there was an expression, garbage in, garbage out. And it still applies today. So artificial intelligence can only give intelligent answers if you put intelligent data into it. Yeah. And if you don't therefore understand what systems you've got and how you can feed the artificial intelligence with good data, you're not going to get the result you're looking for. And then you go, well, the system doesn't work. Yeah, the system does work. You just didn't feed it properly.
Absolutely right. So, Andy, honestly, it's been really great to see you as ever.
And you, Jacqui.
And have a great rest of the show. I know it's been really super busy today. So great that you're here. And it's really good that
Thank you for having me on.
It's my pleasure. And that's the end of part 3 from our time at AM Live. Don't forget, if you're watching us on YouTube, to give us a like, subscribe and a follow. You'll never miss an episode of the Drivetime podcast.